Hello, my name is Matthias, and welcome to the FPL Scope and the weekly wildcard draft for Gameweek 24, where we are finally into the double game week territory of the season. We have our first double game week in Gameweek 24, and that will also obviously affect the team for this week, especially, but also next week, once we get past the double game week, the team could change quite a bit as well. So there are a couple changes to this team compared to last week. There have been some changes since last time around in terms of what happened in this past game week. And that will be reflected in the team that you'll see here today in the weekly wildcard drafts. As we always do on this channel, for every single game week, we try to wildcard, or pretend to wildcard at least, a new draft every single game week, just to see what the ideal team to have is in FPL, basically. So yeah, I'm going to do this as always in the style of an NBA or NFL type of drafts, where the number one pick, the number one player that I'm going to present to you guys, is going to be the player I think is the most important player to have in Fantasy Premier League currently. And then the 15th player is the final member of the squad who barely made it in, basically, into the squad. I'm also going to talk about a couple of players that have dropped out since last time, and I'm going to talk about 3 players that were close to making the squad but didn't for some reason, as always. So yeah, let's move into the number one pick, which is again going to be Mohamed Salah. He is the main man for this game week. He is going to be the prime triple captaincy candidate left for the rest of the season, in my opinion. Yes, 2 pretty tough fixtures in terms of Bournemouth away and Everton away, in terms of getting goals and stuff for Liverpool. Bournemouth have been really, really good lately. That's going to be a tough game for Liverpool. And then Everton away is always tough. It's always a derby. We've seen Salah score in that type of game before, but it is going to be tough, especially now with David Moyes back in his last, or in Everton's last stint at Goodison Park, the final Goodison Park Merseyside derby. It's going to be this game between Liverpool and Everton, or Everton and Liverpool. So yeah, Salah, I still think he is a really good captaincy option, obviously, or the best captaincy option, the clear captaincy option for everyone. And even if you have if you have your triple captaincy left as well, I would also probably advise on using it, because Salah is just that good. Liverpool are just that good. So even though the fixtures aren't ideal, you don't really get this chance as many times as you want it, basically, for the triple captaincy. It makes sense. I don't think any other chips make sense. The bench boost, assistant manager chip and stuff. So if you want to use a chip this week and you have triple captaincy left, especially if you have all chips left, then I would use the triple captaincy chip on Salah. But yeah, beyond that, he has Wolves at home and then City away. I don't think City away is that tough of a fixture either, even though it is marked with light red, which means that it's a bit of a tough fixture, because it is Man City. But I think that's more defensively. It's going to be a tough game. Offensively, I think we've seen several teams score many, many goals against Manchester City in the past, especially the better teams that can actually attack them and aren't afraid of Man City. So yeah, I think the next 3 game weeks are really, really good for Salah. Newcastle at home, even that game is fine. It's at Anfield, so even though there are a couple tough fixtures on his schedule, I don't think it's that big of an issue, because yeah, we know how good Salah is. But he has been slightly worse, or hasn't been as on fire the last few game weeks as he has been previously in the season. But obviously that could easily change as well. So yeah, I would just definitely back Salah, and he's the clear-cut number 1 pick, obviously, since he's the double game week player who is the most important to have. So yeah, he comes in at number 1. Number 2, we have Cole Palmer, who is still a bit of an iffy selection. I think if the fixtures were worse, I probably would have potentially looked at bringing him out, or taking him out of the squad, or at least drop him down in the rankings. But seeing as they have West Ham at home and Southampton at home within the next 4 games, including also the Brighton game where he scored 4 goals in the opposite fixture earlier in the season, and then Aston Villa as well. Every team can beat Aston Villa. They are a bit up and down. We've seen that in the past. West Ham probably should have beaten them towards the end of the last game now. So yeah, I think the fixtures are really good for Palmer. That's why he's still so high up in the rankings. He's even gone up a little bit because the fixtures are a bit tougher for the number 3 pick, but Palmer's still a pretty easy pick. I don't think there's any reason to sell him, even if it gives you some extra Liverpool assets. I probably, if my only way of getting Salah, and I had triple captaincy left, if my only way of getting Salah would be to sell Palmer, that would be probably the only instance where I would advise selling Palmer. And even there, I would be a bit iffy. I think I would look to other ways of getting Salah in, potentially, if that's the case. So yeah, Palmer is fantastic. He is the number 2 pick, even though his form has dropped a little bit lately. And we have to keep that in mind when we do these future rankings as well with him. Number 3, we have Alexander Isak, and again, tougher fixtures. You can see from the fixtures there: Fulham at home, City away, Nottingham Forest at home, Liverpool away. On paper, they are kind of tough fixtures. Fulham are a pretty tough team to break down, as we saw with Man United this past game week. Obviously, Newcastle and Isak are in much better form than Man United. I don't think that fixture is going to be too tough for Isak. It's going to be a tricky fixture still, but they could easily get some points there. City away, like I mentioned with Salah, I don't think it's that big of a deal to face City away, at least for a good attacking team. So I think that's actually like a decent fixture as well. And then Nottingham Forest at home, we just saw Bournemouth score 5 goals past Nottingham Forest, so it is possible to do. We've seen it in the past. Nottingham Forest have lost 5-0 to Bournemouth and then lost 3-0 to City as well early in the season. So I don't even think that fixture is too tough for Isak. And then Liverpool away is obviously the toughest fixture that you have in the Premier League, but we've seen Isak be really good against Liverpool in the past as well. So I think even though the fixtures aren't ideal for Isak for the immediate or the short term, basically, I still think he is a great option. And for the long term, he's super important because Newcastle are most likely... they are going to blank in Game Week 29, which is also another detriment to Isak, I guess. If you want to go through Game Week 29 without using the free hit chip, then maybe you want to consider Isak differently. But seeing as we are using the free hit chip in Game Week 29 with this tactic when we are wildcarding in Game Week 24, it makes all the more sense to keep him and have him for Game Week 33 when he's going to have a double game week. And the game weeks leading up to that as well, Game Week 30, 31, 32 will also be really good. So he has a good chance of doubling in Game Week 33, playing in Game Week 34. So yeah, he's a really good long-term pick as well, and obviously just the good value that he is. He's been so much better than what his price has been so far this season. So yeah, again, pretty simple pick, but the fixtures makes him drop down slightly further down than Palmer in this instance. Number 4, we still have Trent Alexander-Arnold going into the double game week. I think this will definitely change after this game week. I still think Trent will be a good option after the double game week, but for now, he's mostly in there, especially this high, because of the double game week. And I think Bournemouth and Everton, there are two teams that could provide some problems for Liverpool, but I think mostly they will try to get a score, like they will try to get a result from this game. So I think defensively, these games will actually be pretty decent for Trent. Wolves at home as well should also be decent for Trent, especially offensively. But then like the City and Newcastle games are tougher for him than Salah, I think. So yeah, after the Wolves game, might be that Trent is out of the squad, but for now, for the next 2 game weeks, I think he is pretty important to have, and I have him as the number 4 pick for that reason. Liverpool are really good defensively, they're really good offensively. We've seen that both in terms of their points so far this season, in terms of goals conceded, in terms of goals scored, in terms of expected goals against, in terms of expected goals for. Like, they're just good on every single metric, Liverpool. Even in the Champions League, they're fantastic. So yeah, I think Trent is just a really viable option as the main guy in their defense who has a lot of attacking threat and some clean sheet potential there, of course, playing for Liverpool. So yeah, he goes in at number 4. Number 5, we have the third Liverpool asset that we want for the double game week, and that is Cody Gakpo. He was in the squad last time around as well at number 6. So he is a pretty important player, and I'm pretty happy with the fact that I had him number 6 last week, because there was a question: do you want to go with Gakpo? Do you want to go with Konate or Alisson, for example, or some other Liverpool asset as your third asset? I was pretty clear that I thought Gakpo would be the best third option for Liverpool. I actually did that with my own team as well. I bought Gakpo even though I had more of an issue in goal with Sanchez and Fabianski as my goalkeepers, and I could have gone to Alisson quite easily. I rather wanted to go with Gakpo because I thought he had higher upside, and he proved that straight away with the 16 points that he got this past game week against Ipswich. So yeah, Gakpo I think is a really good option even for the long term as well. Like I said, the City and Newcastle fixtures I don't think are that bad for an offensive player. I think these will be, or at least the City game will be pretty high scoring. So I think for the long term, I think Gakpo is also pretty good, especially if you're looking to free hit in Game 29, which we are with this tactic basically. So yeah, Gakpo, really, really good. Could have been even higher potentially as well, because he is a bit cheaper compared to the rest of the players in his position if you compare him to Trent, who's the most expensive defender. But yeah, he definitely deserves being number 5 in this ranking, Gakpo, and I'm happy that I had him so high last week as well at number 6. This week's number 6, though, is a new player, that is Brian Mbeumo, who I did also transfer in this past game week, just to make enough space for me to get in Gakpo for Joao Pedro. I sold Bruno Fernandes and brought in Mbeumo. Straight away, he got 7 points from scoring a penalty. Kind of lucky because he missed the first penalty, and then he sort of got to retake it because of because of the way he came into the box a bit too early. So a bit lucky there. Mbeumo could have been just a penalty miss, and he wouldn't have looked at that good of a prospect. But still, the fixtures are just that good. Spurs at home, which could or should actually be like marked as like light blue or even like dark blue currently with the form that Spurs are in. That is a really, really, really nice fixture, and that's why I think it's really nice to jump onto getting Mbeumo at this point of the season if you don't have him already. So yeah, Spurs at home, West Ham away, also another terrific fixture. Leicester away, fantastic fixture. Everton at home, also a really good fixture. So Mbeumo from now until like game week 30, I think is fantastic. I think is a really good pick. and that's why he comes in at number 6. He's the penalty taker. We know how good Mbeumo is. He's sort of like a cheap man's version of Salah and Palmer, and yeah, he's just been terrific this season. So yeah, he comes in at number 6. Number 7, we have Kluivert from Justin Kluivert is his name, from Bournemouth. I had him at number 15 last week because I was a bit unsure after one game without the strikers with Bournemouth. I was still a bit unsure whether they would look really, really good or not. And then they just responded in the best possible way, beating Nottingham Forest, which has been one of the best defensive teams in the league. They beat them 5-0, just completely destroyed them. So Kluivert looked fantastic. He's on penalties. He's playing as a striker. He even had a goal disallowed as well on top of all the points that he got. So I think Kluivert is looking like a really, really, really good option now. He might even be, he could potentially go even higher up in the rankings next week if he keeps delivering like this. Like, he is looking really good at the moment. So yeah, especially with the fixtures that he has, especially also from next week onwards. He has Liverpool this week, so I get it if you don't want to buy him this week, if you don't have him already. But from next week onwards, you should make it a priority to bring in Kluivert into your squad, whether that's through a wildcard or if that's through a regular transfer. Kluivert just seems like the real deal currently. His playing time looks really good. He's the penalty taker, like I mentioned a couple times now. He's going to be a really terrific option for the foreseeable part of this season as well. So yeah, especially with the form Bournemouth are in, they have been absolutely fantastic. If you look at their last, I think they've gone the last 11 or 12 fixtures, they've gone unbeaten, and most of those games have been wins as well. So Bournemouth just in fantastic form. Kluivert is the main man there, playing as a striker, sort of like almost as a striker at least, playing a bit out of position. So Kluivert is just fantastic, but he's going to be even better next week when he has just terrific fixtures for the foreseeable future. So yeah, Kluivert comes in at number 7. Number 8, another player from Bournemouth in Milos Kerkez. I think he's also been terrific the last few weeks. He's getting points left, right, and center, whether that's through clean sheets, whether that's through assists, or even goals sometimes, or if it's through both clean sheets and goals or assists at the same time. Like, Kerkez has shown such a high upside this season, and there's a reason why he's such a known quantity in the transfer market. There's a lot of big teams that want Kerkez because he is a really top high-level player who's been really good for Bournemouth this season. So yeah, it's a pretty easy choice for me at number 8. I think he is. Next week he's going to be the best defender to have in the game after the double game week has gone past for Trent. But this week, obviously, Liverpool, not the best fixture. So like I said with Kluivert, if you want to bring him in, I think it's better to wait a week and get him next week. But yeah, even against Liverpool, I wouldn't really put it past him to score a goal potentially. Like, he has that in him, especially if they are chasing and they're trying to get a goal back. He's just super attacking, just a really good player overall, playing for a team that are one of the best defenses in the league as well. Like, they've been so good defensively, especially since Dean Howson came in as the centre back next to Sabarni there. So yeah, Bournemouth have been fantastic, and Kerkez has been a big reason for that. So yeah, he comes in at number 8. Number 9, we have Wissa, another Brentford player as well. I think Brentford and Bournemouth are going to be teams that are really heavily favored now because of the good fixtures that they have, but also the good form that they've shown basically all season. Like, Bournemouth as a team and Brentford as like an attacking side, especially at home. So I think the fixtures for Wissa are just that good. Spurs at home, could easily see him score like 2 goals in that game. That could really happen. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens for Wissa. Then West Ham away, Leicester away, and Everton at home. Again, terrific fixtures. I don't mind the double up at all because I think Brentford will probably score around 2 or 3 goals in each of these games, most likely. Like they will probably average around 2 goals per game, I think, through these next 4 games. So you could easily see Mbeumo and Wissa linking up like they usually do when Brentford score goals as well. So yeah, Wissa, fantastic. He's not a penalty taker or anything like that, obviously, but he is also like one of the best when it comes to underlying stats. Like, he is getting chances left, right, and center, and he often scores as well. So I think the double up is definitely warranted. So I have preferred Wissa over the likes of Ndiaye from Everton, for example, who has a double game week. I think he is just better and higher upside for the long term. And even in this week as well, like Spurs at home compared to, Leicester at home and Liverpool at home for Everton, I would not put it past Wissa to get a higher score than Ndiaye, I guess, this week. So yeah, Wissa is really, really good. It comes in at number 9, and yeah, the good fixture set he has just makes it a pretty easy choice for me, at least. So yeah, let's move on to number 10, which is going to be from Everton, Mykolenko, who has the double game week with Leicester at home, Liverpool at home. It is like a double game week, but it is also Liverpool, so it's not really that big of a double game week because you don't really expect more than 2 points from Mykolenko in that game week. That's sort of the point I have with Ndiaye compared to Wissa as well. It is pretty much just like Leicester at home versus Spurs at home for Wissa versus Ndiaye, and then the extra 2 points that NDI gets from the Liverpool game most likely. So yeah, I prefer Wissa long term. But Mykolenko, when it comes to him, I think he's just a really good asset long term in general because he's so cheap. He's 4.3 or 4.4 he is now, I think. He went up in price. So even still, that is a really cheap price for a player that plays for a really good defensive team in Everton. They are still pretty good defensively under Moyes. They got their first clean sheet under Moyes against Brighton last time around. Mykolenko is just someone that you could easily stash on your bench and just play him whenever you need him to, whenever you don't have enough defenders that have easy matches, for example. And with the double game week as well, it just makes it a really easy decision to have Mykolenko for the price that he is. He's also a left back, so he could get some attacking returns, even though he hasn't shown much of that this season. But last season, he had like a really good spell of like 4 or 5 games where he was like really attacking and got some points as well. And that was under Sean Dyche, who's a really defensive manager. So yeah, Mykolenko, I think is a really good choice, really cheap choice as well. So and nailed as well. It doesn't seem like there's any rumors about Everton getting a left back or something like that. So Mykolenko should be safe for the longest time, or for the rest of the season, basically, as the Everton left back. So yeah, he comes in at number 10 for that reason. Number 11, we have another Everton player. We've doubled up in defense with Pickford and Mykolenko. I think Pickford, with the double game week, I think is still the best goalkeeper to have in the game currently. After the double game week, there is going to be a different discussion, so he might drop out next week. But for now, with the double game week in mind, even though it is Liverpool, at least for a goalkeeper, that's better because you can get some saves. You can get potentially a penalty save. You can get like 9 saves against Liverpool and get like a decent score of like 4 points extra. So there's a bit of a higher upside in the Liverpool game compared to Mykolenko for Pickford. And the Leicester game as well, you would expect Everton to keep a clean sheet in that game, even though Leicester just beat Spurs, but everyone beats Spurs because they're terrible. But yeah, I think Pickford is just a solid goalkeeper all around. Like even the game weeks after the double game week, Crystal Palace away, Man United at home, Brentford away, kind of tough fixtures all around. Like there are tricky-ish. I wouldn't really be surprised if they go through all 3 games without a clean sheet. But at the same time, I wouldn't be too surprised if they went through all 3 games with a clean sheet, or like either of those games. I could definitely see them getting a clean sheet, or I could see them not getting a clean sheet. It's sort of 50-50 in all 3 games. So either or, getting 3 games without a clean sheet or getting 3 games with a clean sheet is probably not likely. But getting at least 1 or 2 clean sheets in those 3 fixtures is probably on the table there. So yeah, I think Pickford for now is the best goalkeeper, but after the double game week, I will have to like adjust that. I think I will probably change it, but we'll see what happens. But for now, he's in the team. He's at number 11. Then number 12, we have Dango Ouattara from Bournemouth, who just looked electric this past game week with the 3 goals, the hat-trick against Nottingham Forest. Like, he looked amazing playing as a striker, but that is Dango, sort of. Like, he is going to be a really explosive player. Some games he's going to look like completely out of it. Some games he's going to look like the world's best player. Like, that's just Dango Ouattara. He's really difficult to gauge. He has some really good strengths in his arsenal, and has some really like pretty blaring weaknesses as well to his game. So Dango's just a really fun player in general. So that's why I like him as like the 8th attacker, like the guy you can bench sometimes if you're not too sure about him. Or you can play him in the games like against Southampton, for example, or Wolves at home. I think he's like definitely playable in these 2 game weeks. So yeah, I think he's just a really fun player to have as the final pick. He's also only 5.0, so he's really cheap. Doesn't really cost too much. So if you just want to bench him anyway, like it's not really that much compared to like the cheapest possible midfielder you can get. So yeah, I think he's just like a really fun pick, and I really like Bournemouth as well for the foreseeable future. So yeah, I just want to triple up with Bournemouth, and I think Dango is the right place to go. And he could even potentially do better than Kluivert if he keeps this current form, if he keeps playing as well as he does, if he's all of a sudden like a really good striker. Maybe they found like a really good striker in Dango. Maybe it's like a Mikel Antonio situation where they played him at like fullback and stuff, and then they figure out that, oh, he's actually really good as a striker. So that could be the case with Dango. I think the upside is just really good, so I really like him as like the 8th attacker there. And just someone that you can stash just in case he's good. Like I would just pick him in the squad now if I had a wildcard, just to have him, just because it feels good to have him. Because I think the playing time is going to be pretty good with the strikers being out. He has proven that he is someone worth betting on. I think the last 3 games he's played 90 minutes as well, so like he doesn't even get subbed off, which is amazing. So yeah, I think Dango is a really good pick, and you could make the case that he's better than Kluivert. But for now, I think Kluivert is the more like certain player in terms of both playing time and penalty taking duties and stuff. So I would prefer Kluivert, but I wouldn't be too surprised if Dango turns out to be the better pick either, especially with the price difference of like 0.7 now as well. Especially if you can't afford Kluivert, I think it's perfectly viable to go for Dango instead. So yeah, he comes in at number 12. Number 13, we have we have Daniel Muñoz. I do think he's still, but I gotta check again. Maybe I need to change the graphics there. But either way, Muñoz is a really good pick to have, even though the fixtures aren't as good now, and Palace aren't like the best team, but we've seen that they can get a clean sheet. We've seen also that they can score, or Muñoz can get attacking returns, just like he did against Brentford this past game week. Came up and got an assist there towards the end of the game when they were chasing and trying to get points. So I think Muñoz is just a really good player. The attacking returns are there, or the attacking potential is there. The clean sheet potential is there. Playing for a decent team with decent fixtures. So yeah, I'm not like completely sold on Muñoz long term, but I think he is still like a really good pick to have in FPL. So yeah, he comes in at number 13. He's a really good player in general. And I think preseason, like when we expected Palace to be a really good team, he was like a really nice differential to have at 5.0, but then Palace kind of struggled, but now they sort of found their footing. They also lost Trevor Chalobah not too long ago, so maybe that will affect them more defensively and will kind of hamper their defensive potential. So I'm a bit unsure about Muñoz, but I think like the upside there is just really, really good. So I still want to have a place in the squad for him at number 13, but there are some other candidates that could go ahead of him basically. But yeah, he goes in at number 13. Number 14, we have Lewis Hall for Newcastle, and the only reason that he's lower than the Muñoz, for example, in this ranking is because of the fixtures. I said that I don't really worry about the fixtures for Isak because attacking wise, I think it's pretty good fixtures. Home games and Man City are pretty good fixtures for an attacker. But for Hall, I think like the Fulham game is definitely still a good game week for a defender. Fulham showed against Man United they are pretty bad offensively, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Hall get a clean sheet in that game. But after that, City away, even Forest at home, it could also be a decent game defensively, but we have seen Forest score in the past. Chris Wood against his former team, and then Liverpool away. Like I just don't really like the fixtures that much for Hall. I think there could be a case as well pretty soon that you want to triple up with a different triple for Newcastle. A Pope in goal when he's back. He's going to be back pretty soon. And Gordon and Isak. I think that could be the better triple up because there are some other good candidates in defense. But yeah, Hall is still a really good player, obviously. He's been really good this whole season. We still expect him to keep his place as left back because he has been that good. He is like in the realm of being in the England squad or being even in the starting lineup for England. So yeah, he's a really good player. It's just the fixtures that put me off slightly. I'm not quite sure how much to back Newcastle currently because they are a really good team, but they do have really tough fixtures. So yeah, he comes in barely at number 14. And the only player behind him on the order is the backup goalkeeper, because now that Fabianski is not the starting goalkeeper anymore for West Ham, and Areola is ever so slightly more expensive. He's 4.2 compared to the 4.1 that Fabianski is. And Areola is also just like not as good of a goalkeeper. We're still not sure if he's going to be the starting goalkeeper. Potter said that he's going to change, like he might change it back and stuff. Like he's not like a surefire thing, but for now he is the best option we have for like a backup goalkeeper. You could even make the case that potentially going Fabianski and Areola as like your goalkeeper duo and just have the West Ham goalkeeper could be the best play for the rest of the season, because maybe they will be better under Graham Potter defensively as well, West Ham. And then that way you won't have to worry about like the defensive issues. And I don't think like a triple up for West Ham is going to be like a viable thing at this season anyway. Like potentially just Bowen, that's like the only player I would see outside of the goalkeeper for West Ham that could be good. So that could be the option eventually, but yeah, not too sold on Areola by himself, especially with the fixtures as well. Chelsea away, Arsenal away, like it's not really good fixtures either. But obviously you would play Pickford in those game weeks anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, it would have been nice to be like assured that he was going to play like we thought we had with Fabianski. But for now, like the backup goalkeeper just seems like a throwaway spot. Like whether you want to go with Areola, if you want to go with like a cheaper goalkeeper who doesn't play at all or who has no chance of playing for like 3.9 and you save yourself 0.3 in terms of value, I would kind of potentially think about doing that as well. The other goalkeeper that I did think about was the Polish goalkeeper from Leicester. I'm not even going to try to attempt his name without seeing his name in front of me. But he had a really good game against Spurs. So yeah, Emma Simonsen is out for a while. I think he's out for like a month potentially. So he's not really a long-term pick either. So yeah, I think Areola is just like the best of the rest, the best of what we have available right now for the price that he is at 4.2. But yeah, don't really feel too good about him. So that's why he's number 15th pick in the squad basically. But yeah, I've gone through the players that have been new since last time. So let's check out the players that have dropped out since last time. And that is Anthony Gordon for Newcastle because of the fixtures. I'm going to go deeper into it, but Gordon has been left out. Mateta has been left out. Rodgers is out of the squad as well. And Fabianski is also left for Areola, like I just mentioned. So yeah, starting with Gordon, the fixtures, we've sort of talked about both Gordon and Fabianski sort of now, because like the same things that I said for Hall sort of accounts for Gordon as well. The fixtures just makes him a bit more of an unsure pick. If you want to go from Gordon to Mbeumo this week, I would totally get it, because I think Mbeumo is just a better short-term pick than Gordon, but long-term he is still like a viable player. So I think like if you don't mind, if he doesn't really like solve much by selling, if it doesn't solve much for you by selling Gordon, I think you could easily just keep him. But yeah, if you don't have Mbeumo, for example, I think that's a nice way of getting him. Just because of the fixtures that Gordon has, I don't really trust him as much. I wouldn't really double up on Newcastle attacking players with those fixtures. Maybe Isak will get a goal or two, but I think it's going to be tough for them to continue scoring like 3 or 4 goals, which has been the case for doubling up on the Newcastle attack in the past, because they've had really good fixtures and they've been scoring a lot of goals. So yeah, I just don't have enough faith in Gordon, but I still think he's like a decent pick. I did think about buying him last game week, and I had him at number 5 in the Wildcard draft rankings as well, which is admittedly a bit high. I've sort of moderated myself since last week, obviously, because he's out of the squad now. But yeah, I still think he's like a decent option. I wouldn't put it past anyone to keep him either. Like I wouldn't really begrudge you if you want to keep Gordon, but yeah, I think with just the fixtures, you just have to let him go. Mateta as well had his most disappointing game in the recent weeks. This past game week, didn't really do much in this past game for Palace against Brentford. He's still a good pick, but I just prefer Wissa. I think he has better fixtures. He also has the better numbers and stuff for the season. But again, like with Gordon, I think Mateta is a perfectly fine hold if you want to keep him. He's a bit more expensive, that's the other thing. Like he's like 1 million more expensive than Wissa, so that's the final like nail in the coffin for me. But if you don't need the money, I think it's perfectly viable to keep Mateta as well and have him in the squad basically. So yeah, he's dropped out as well, but I still think he's a good pick. Same with Rodgers. He has like a couple more game weeks now that are decent. The next 2 game weeks, I think Rodgers is okay, but after that the fixtures dry up, and I think Dango is just a better pick at this point. So yeah, basically just took the extra money there from Dango, and also that potentially higher upside from Dango, and sold Rodgers or got rid of Rodgers for this weekly wildcard draft. So yeah, he's dropped out as well. And Fabianski, he dropped out of the team for West Ham. He's not the starting goalkeeper anymore, so obviously he would have to drop out of the wildcard draft as well, because he's not really viable as an option if he doesn't start. So yeah, he's also dropped out. Finally, we have 3 players that are on the cusp, that are players that yeah, almost made it into the squad. So I had thought about something else there, but yeah, so on the cusp are 3 players that are close to making the squad but didn't make it for some reason. Some alternatives if you want to look at different ways of rearranging your squad and stuff. Some like cheaper players, some more expensive players. Yeah, you can make your own decision whether you want to have these players in the squad or not. So yeah, once again, I've gone with, I'll start with the defender. I've gone with Gabriel as the defender option here. I think he's really good. There are reasons to sell him for Trent, for example, this week. So I would, again, think that could be a good idea if you have the money available for that. But I think Gabriel is also going to be a good option for the rest of the season. He's a safe and steady option. We know the attacking potential he has from set pieces. We know the clean sheet potential he has playing for Arsenal. And we know the good chance that Arsenal have of not having a single blank game week for the rest of the season. So like he's a really safe option to have for the end of the season. But he is a bit expensive. If it was a bit cheaper, then it would be easier to keep him. But yeah, the price makes it just a bit too tough to have him in the squad. Could have had him rather than Hall, for example, but that would cost another $1 million, which I don't have to use. So yeah, I think Gabriel just has to be out of the squad for that reason, but there's definitely reasons to have him in the squad as well if you have more money available. And one of those ways of getting more money available is getting Waneri. If you want to downgrade, for example, Kluivert to Waneri and then have enough money to go from Hall to Gabriel, like that could be good. But I've added Waneri because he is going to play quite a bit for like the next like month or two for Arsenal, especially once since Saka is still out. He did get subbed off last time around at the halfway mark. But that was basically because they went down to 10 men, which Arsenal tend to do, but hopefully they won't do for the rest of the season now. But yeah, I think Waneri is a decent differential, really cheap, 4.5. Like he costs absolutely nothing. He could be like a really nice differential and have some really high scoring game weeks as well in the future. So especially if you're trying to cost cut and you need to save money, if you want to save up money to get Salah or Trent, for example, and you have 2 free transfers, the Waneri could be the way out of that. For example, selling Gordon and getting Waneri and then buying. If you don't have Salah for some reason at this point, you can buy him for the extra money, or you can bring in Trent, for example, who a lot of people are looking ways to get by like getting more funds to bring him in, basically. So Waneri could be a nice option to do that, but for now, I think the squad balance is just a bit better with Kluivert and Dango and stuff. I think it's just a better upside for those players than Waneri, but he's definitely a solid pick for the next few game weeks. for Arsenal, just because Saka's out and he's going to play for a really cheap price most likely. So I think he's really good as well. And then the attackers didn't want to have Mateta because I already had him already. Could have had Ndiaye, but again, I don't think his long-term potential is that good. He is probably the penalty taker now, or he is the penalty taker as long as Calvert-Lewin is out. But I just don't really trust Everton's attack that much at all. I trust Wolves' attack more, and Cunha is going to be a long-term better asset, I think, than Ndiaye will be. So yeah, I think Cunha is just better for the long term. He has been good in the past. He's been really good from low XG and stuff, scored goals from weird angles. He's just a really good player. So yeah, I think he's also someone that I would probably consider, especially if he gets a move to a bigger club. If he goes to Arsenal, for example, before the end of the transfer window, could definitely have a really nice option there for like a decent price as well. So yeah, Cunha is the final player that I'm going to talk about in this video. And with that, I'm done for this time around. This weekly Wildcard draft is over. Next week, like I said, could be a lot of changes because of the double game week being gone and past it for Everton and Liverpool players especially. But yeah, as always, I'm going to keep doing this for the end of the season, doing a wildcard draft every single game week. Sometimes it is useful for people who are on a wildcard for some reason. You could be watching this right now and you're on a wildcard in Gameweek24 because you had no Liverpool or Everton players, for example, going into the game week. I wouldn't really be too surprised if you used a wildcard now, but I would generally advise on not using the wildcard. In general, maybe I should make this like a normal feature of these videos where at the end I will sort of summarize if I would wildcard this week or not. But for this week, if you don't have Liverpool players and you don't have Everton players, you're looking at a team with no doublers and some issues otherwise as well, I think it's perfectly viable to wildcard. But if you've sort of paid attention a bit more, sorry, no offense taken, no offense intended at least, but if you have like been aware of the double game week before now, and you've already added some Liverpool players and stuff, I don't really think it's a good game week to wildcard. I think it will be more useful after game week 29 to bring in the players that you need for the end of the season, pretty much. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the wildcard, and if you should wildcard or not. And that's the end of the video for now. Thank you for watching as always. I hope you enjoyed it, even though it is a bit confusing sometimes, I'm guessing. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed it, like I said. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.